What up? I'm Josh Paulison, and welcome to my programming vlog. I want to talk about how you can figure out when an image is loaded and wait to perform an action until then. So here we have m.source, and in each of the ShowPony modules, m.source is run to change the source of a file, to change the source that we are viewing. So for example, in this manga, we end up going between files, and m.source is being run each time and changing us to the next image, to the next page in the comic. So what's actually going on here? Well, it ends up saving the file name that gets passed so that we can check it later, and there's reasons that we're doing it that way. Don't worry about it for now. What we are doing, though, later is we are returning a new promise. And this promise ends up having image onload inside. Now, we could use an event listener instead. That's not really important in this case to worry about. We have onload function resolve. So resolve is actually going to call back to the promise. So we're adding an onload inside of a promise. And since the promise is asynchronous, it is going to wait until it is resolved to say, hey, we succeeded. If we never had resolve, then it could just run through to the end and go, okay, I guess nothing's happening, or we're not really sure what's happening. You have to run resolve to actually end a promise. So having resolve inside of onload, inside of a promise, ends up working out. And what this allows us to do is say, okay, we haven't finished loading, and we're not going to claim that we finished loading until we get this information back from the image. So if you want to make sure that you know when an image has loaded and to let your software know, to let your JavaScript know, put your onload into a promise and then resolve that promise inside of the onload. Now, of course, you need to make sure that you have your code set up to handle the promise effectively or to at least do something with it. So if I go back to showpony.php, and I go to the relevant function, I go down, we'll see that we have await the source. So this looks a little bit clunky here, but we have await the current module's source function. And what await will do is that it will say, okay, we have a promise or we have an async function. We are going to wait until that finishes up to continue with the code. In this case, with the not, it's saying if it failed, then let the user know, but it succeeded. So we are happy and our image has loaded successfully. So the code will not continue running until the image has successfully loaded. So this is how you can make sure that you wait until an image has loaded to continue with your code. Have a function, have that function return a promise, have that promise contain an onload, have that onload resolve the promise. Feels like a pretty big workaround, but it does work.